Hey everybody, welcome back. This is my 2003 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD Duramax, and this is why we're selling it. If you've been following along for a while, we've had this truck for quite a while. We pretty much did a full-on frame-off restoration on it. We have about a 12-inch lift, 37-inch tires, 22 by 12-inch wheels. We've pretty much spent the last few years upgrading this truck from the messy, destroyed farm truck it was into this. When I say frame off, I mean interior as well. We got a suede headliner, all new leather, custom seat belts, our as a steering wheel, the back here as well. If you don't know already, it is Nukezilla Chameleon as the paint color. So the paint does flop colors. If you've been following along for a while, this was pretty much mine and my wife's, one of our dream trucks when we were growing up. So we took this one, we ended up making it into, just something kind of ridiculous that, we weren't necessarily going to daily drive, but more of a fun truck. When we need it, it's there. If we want to go out and do something, we got our four-wheel drive diesel truck for when the need fits. But if you've been following along the journey, we've had some rough times. So a few years back, we were having some fuel issues. We got all that sorted out. We ended up putting a tuner on it, doing some things, and the day after Christmas, we were coming home about 8 o'clock at night. Our transmission sheared in half on the interstate. The adapter from the transmission to the transfer case just split in half from vibrations. Go figure. Turns out that's a thing to be aware of. If you look at it, the transfer case actually just kind of floats in there. Very strange, all the way it is on the back of the transmission, so it makes sense why it breaks, just not why they engineered it that way. So they do sell the brace for it. Definitely worth $100 to keep yours from being as expensive as that was to fix. When we did that, there was, strange things like there was a special socket required for the back of the transmission to separate it. And that socket was like $150 or something stupid. So we ended up getting that. We rebuilt the transmission, transfer case, did some upgrades along the way. As you can tell, we have the deep PPE oil pan for the transmission, as well as a few other things done to it. And yes, the truck is pretty nasty. We do use it, play in the mud with it. It's not a show truck. So when that whole ordeal happened, it wiped out our drive shaft. So we got a new drive shaft, and during that whole thing, I decided with the power it was putting out, we kept having drive shaft issues where, the back end would get loose at the axle, flip around, the usual Duramax stuff. So we ended up changing the pinion flange to do a Dodge 3500 flange. It uses the same U-joint on the drive shaft. It just works better. It's a lot more secure, in my opinion. So we did that upgrade to it. Haven't had an issue since. Knock on wood. So that is that whole contraption right there. We have a 1-inch spacer and the ram flanges on it. So after we got through all that, we were pretty good for a while. Until I started towing again, which was kind of one of the crippling things for this truck. If y'all know Chevys, if the hitch isn't perfectly secure, or sometimes even if it is, you still have issues. The hitch snaps down, bends under. You know how it goes. Poor engineering design versus with the Rams. The whole towing hitch is built into the frame on the truck. So that was where I started. I took our hitch and I welded it to the frame on this truck. In theory, works. I even plated it. What happened after that just blew my mind. So the hitch itself that came on these trucks was about a 2-inch DOM pipe. And what happened was I locked up the brakes because, traffic, people cutting you off, things like that on the interstate. I locked up the brakes on it, the weight of the trailer just snapped it under. It took the whole 2-inch DOM piping and twisted it on both ends, cracked the paint off. Like, you could tell it was twisted. So everything was still attached where I welded it to the frame, but that 2-inch DOM piping that goes across that the receiver mounts to, that whole contraption twisted. So what I did from there, I cut it all off with a torch and welded my own on. Haven't had an issue since. So we got this hitch here. As you can see, it is square tubing, a lot more robust. So I built it out. I put some gussets in there just to help secure everything. I welded our new plug onto this hitch because it didn't quite have a setup like that. So from there, I took that hitch that I put together, I welded that thing back, plated it, boxed it in about 1.5 feet back on the frame. That square tubing with the gussets on it, that's not going anywhere. Hasn't gone anywhere. So definitely did that. Probably one of the biggest helps that, helped this truck as far as use on it, actually towing something. And also with the lift on it, it helped drop that receiver down about 2 inches. So that helps too. But that brings me to my next point. When we started redoing the truck, we kind of knew it wasn't really going to be our daily. And it just kind of ended up sitting a lot. As it's broken, I just ended up driving my Ram. And honestly, my Ram proved to be pretty good in all aspects. Plus I have like satellite radio and stuff in the Ram. This one, it is what it is. It's a 2003 Chevy truck. Comfortable seats, but it is what it is. And, we like the truck. It's a good truck at this point, but we just don't really use it. I think since 2018, we put 6,000 miles on it, maybe. What's that, 1,000 miles a year? Something like that. And about a quarter of that was just driving from Florida up here and back. And then back up here one more time, where it's been sitting again. So, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to keep it. We're finally at a place where it's pretty reliable. It's just we don't drive it. And for me, I have offers on it that are, substantial and pretty much buy me out of the truck for what I have in it, give me a little extra. So I'm taking it. And honestly, I'm kind of excited to see it go because of the future, some of the other projects we got coming and things of that sort. Because that's one of my things. I am thinning out some cars right now. So we're going to have a lot less cars, but a little bit more quality. Get some of our heavier builds done and go from there, really. But all things considered, being a 20-year-old truck, the only light I have on right now is for the airbag, and that's because we changed out the body module. And I guess the theft deterrent system needs to be programmed to talk to something in order to take the airbag light off. But it's a light. There's no check engine light, so that's all good. So really, that's what's going on with our Duramax right now, kind of how we got to this point and where it's going. And it is going back to Florida for the new old owner. The original owner of this truck is getting it back for his 16-year-old son. So it's a good purpose. I really wish I could say this has just been a terrible truck and it was a nightmare. And sometimes it was, but really a lot of that's on me. I know, when you get something and you put a lot of power to it, tune it, stuff's gonna break. And I wasn't easy on it. We all know that. I pushed it pretty hard and it makes sense why stuff broke. And then there's the other things like the hitch, but that is what it is. That's not on me, really. Just kind of sucked. But in general, it's been a good truck, but I'm ready for it to be a good truck for somebody else. So that's all for today's video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow along. If you want to see what's coming next,